Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Belegian.
Is up, hockey fans. So glad you could join us wherever you may be tonight. He is Mike Iveso. I'm Sean Belegian. We talk about one thing during this show, and it is the greatest game on earth. And I have no qualms saying that. You've heard me say that on the radio and television for years. I will never deviate from that. And that's why a lot of times, Mike, during the week when we do shows with Shep, we'll touch on it. When we do some of the other shows, we'll touch on it. But this show is exclusively for the greatest game on earth. I think you'll agree with me there, friend.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no other game, and you know that. I do dabble in the football with a little betting and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, if we're talking about something, odds are it's going to be hockey.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The streak came to an end last night, and Mike and I have not talked about this. I purposely did not bother Mike about this last night or today for that matter, and we've talked. Good evening to Tom. Gosh, the Wings were awful last night. That's where we're starting. Do you know what last night was to me, Mike Iveso?
What's
last night, Mike, it was a subtle reminder that while they had a 7-game streak, and props to them for the 7-game streak, it was a subtle reminder that this roster has not been constructed very well, that there are goaltending issues, that they are slow overall, which I'm sorry, I've said that for years now, and finally people, are paying attention. I mean, not guys like you. They're bad on their back end. It was a subtle reminder that while things were going well, and they were 7 games in a row in this league, the roster still has its limitations.
Right. It couldn't come at a better time. I don't know about you, but I was getting bombarded with Red Wing fans and just how happy it was and what's going to happen at the trade deadline. And we're back and we finally got the coach. It was all the coach. And I was, of course, sticking to what we had said, wait till February 1st, right? Let's get some tough games in. And they went ahead and did it before that even started with this San Jose game. But, Sean, it started in the Seattle game. They jumped out, obviously. We saw they had, 15 goals in the first 2 minutes of the game. And then the rest of the game, I think it got away from them. And I think even Coach McClellan even mentioned that in his presser, that he thought it got away from him. He was hoping that they could get a practice to get it back. But I'm almost glad that they didn't have a practice and they didn't get it back, because people needed a wake-up call to, like you said, this is exactly what it is. It's still a poorly built roster. It's a bad design.
And you know what, Mike, again, there are ebbs and flows of the hockey season. And, when you're talking about 82 games, you can't get too high. You can't get too low. You can't let small sample sizes speak for each other. But I know it wasn't a popular thing to say, that which you and I said 2 weeks ago. I was talking about it on Woodward, and Darren McCarty actually agreed with me. Like literally, I mean, here's a guy that his former teammate, his buddy Steve Yzerman, he should be singing the Everything Is Awesome song. And he said, no, look at this schedule coming up. This schedule is a bear until the end of the month. And it's not just the teams that, are doing very well. But I'm going to say it again. Montreal is one of those teams doing well. They're a matchup nightmare for the Red Wings. If you don't believe me, I mean, just watch the games that they played, not just this year, even those games last year. So there's a lot that can change in the next 2 weeks for the Detroit Red Wings, just simply based on what the schedule holds.
Yeah, and we get to look at that Montreal Detroit matchup here coming up in the next couple of weeks, right? So people will be able to get that eye opener. They'll be able to turn on FanDuel and be able to see it. And it was, matter of fact, Sean, it was great to see Mr. McCarty at your house with that wonderful spread of food we had on Sunday. And even then, when talking about it, I could see the concern on his face. He's been very passionate since Steve signed. You remember we were at Woodward together back at that time, and there's a lot of things that have gone on that had Darren really pumped up. He didn't seem that pumped up on Sunday whenever the Red Wing team came up.
No, it's interesting. You like to see them fight their way out of the hole that they dug themselves, and a lot of it was, Mike. A lot of it was effort, because people. The big question around town, and let me get to some of the comments for just a second. Tom said the roster is the same. Absolutely. Husso looked blah from Dave. Husso can't stop a beach ball. Absolutely. Mike, so if I ask you what changed in the course of about 3 weeks, the obvious answer is go out and play hockey.
Right.
It's not just a cheerleader situation. Mike, I've seen them hold on to the puck more. I've seen them not be the dump and chase type of team. Is there anything that you've seen beyond the rah, go get them boys type of stuff that you could call the McClelland factor, if you will, for these last 3 weeks?
I think he summed it up with just play effing hockey. And for a dead team, and that's what they were, is that there was just no life in them. It was almost like they didn't like coming to the rink. They didn't like what they were doing. He brought life back into this team. You could see the light. As you said, you could see them skating with the puck. They seemed to be a little bit faster of it. Sean, their movement, and again, whether this is them having life or this is a Coach McClelland thing, their movement in the offensive zone is a thing of beauty when it's happening. Sure. But the problem is, Sean, they have to have the effort that they had in that win streak every night to give them a chance. But I agree with, just like you said, I think it is the effort. I do think they looked like they were having fun. Here's the deal now, Sean. Now you're coming up and you're playing, I think, 7 playoff teams out of 8, I think is what it is. You've got to play both sides of the puck now. You've got to do the little things. You've got to do the gritty things. You can't just skate around and look good. You have to play the effing game. And this is going to be a real tell here on this team. I don't think it's going to happen in game 1 of this stretch or game 2. I think by game 8, we're going to see some things. I do believe that. Do I think they're going to be a playoff team where things are going to magically happen? No, but they will be better. You have to get better as you play these games, and you have to come out of it better on the other end.
You know what's interesting? I'm going to get to some comments because I like what a lot of people are saying, and I think it echoes what you and I have been saying. Our buddy Tom Nugent, what's up, Coach Nuge? Wings need secondary scoring. It's so spotty. Like Tarasenko deciding he was going to show up last night. Hey, I remember you. Like it's so spotty. Larkin, Raymond, Joey V was a good line. Bill said, "Yep, the Wings were joyless before the coaching change." Mike, one thing that I need to remind people, and Tom talked about this, and a couple of other people made reference to it. With all the things going on and going out and playing hockey, I'm a firm believer, and you're only going to get so far if there is a talent discrepancy. And I need to reiterate, there is still a talent discrepancy in net, period, end of story, there is. And there is a talent discrepancy on the back end. I don't even want to say the back end. How about, Mike, 3/4 of the Red Wings defense? It's still a core that it's just you're gonna find itself on its back heels quite a bit more often than not.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the bigger drop-off. It's by far the biggest drop-off on this team. But it is probably one of the bigger drop-offs in the league. Once you really get past Mo and Edvinson, then you're getting into some elders, and you bring up the young kid again, and he's getting some PP time, and he shows that he's going to do something. But when you have such a discrepancy in goal, and again, I'm tired of Husso. I'm tired of seeing Husso and what he can't do. We know who he is, Sean. Can we please just see who Kosa is? That's all I'm asking. I mean, we're bringing up some of these young D. We've got some forwards that are going along. But back to your point about the defense, I mean, when it goes south, it goes south in our end real fast. And we saw that in the San Jose game. And that's where you're going to notice it the most. And if you don't have a goalie bailing you out, that defense is even worse.
Tom said the D is nothing more than pylons. Bill asked the $1 million question: does Yzerman make a move or two? You know what? I'm gonna use a quote from Darren McCarty here. Darren McCarty phrased it this way, but it's the same. It's kind of the same question. He asked me point blank, do you think that they're buyers or sellers? And I think that they're sellers, absolutely, positively. They're not in a position to buy yet, because in order to buy something to, I don't know, drastically improve your chances, I will say this until I'm blue in the face. To get something, you have to give up something.
Absolutely.
And if you're calling me, I don't want the guys that you're going to throw out there, period. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. What might I get for that? Mike, again, I think you and I made reference to this over the weekend. I don't know if we talked about it on the show last week. All the just mountain of Dylan Cousins rumors out there, right? And there's a ton of them. Some of the offers that people are throwing out there are just hysterical. Like, it's almost like, are you trying to be funny? Like, why on earth would Buffalo accept that? You know what I mean? And I don't want to disrespect any players or anything. You know, I made the joke to McCarty when we were talking about it privately on Sunday. I said, it's almost like all the people that said, yeah, let's go get Yager and we'll give up Dandy and Drapes. Well, they're not going to make that move, man. Like, what's on in your head? That's not going to end. And it's no disrespect to Drapes, and it's no disrespect to Dandino, but I think people kind of live in that shelter world where I often say, now put your shoe on the other foot, okay? All right? Now pretend you're a fan of the other team. What would you think if that was your return for giving up Dylan Cousins, for giving up Jaromir Jagr, whatever the case may be?
Yeah, we'll just start. And this starts and ends with your comment of, to get something, you have to give up something. And what I want people to do is go back through the chat room of this show right now or past shows and look at all the names you listed as the players that you think are your future or are doing well, be it your, let's go with Raymond, let's go with Seider, let's go with Edvinson, maybe Casper's catching on, right? Dylan Larkin. I'm sorry, but you ain't making a trade if you're not giving up one of those guys, Sean. That is the level that we're talking here, because I pulled up and I saved this purposely for the show this week. They put out a top 30 of the trade board. Now the top trades people are going after, they got the top 30 and ain't a wing on it. Okay. No one's coming and asking for your guys unless you're ready to get rid of Seider. It's all you have. No one wants any of this other stuff. I mean, you might get now I can backtrack that one and say maybe someone's going to rent somebody and go after Kane, because he's on the 1-year contract. You're not getting anything. You're getting nothing back. No, what you're going to do, you're going to fill your Grand Rapids roster. That's it. We don't have anything. On top of that, I had someone tell me, oh, just wait. Who's Steve going to get at the trade deadline? By the deadline, you're going to have under $3 million on your cap. So you're going to have to give up space to get space. You just can't do this. This is a poorly constructed financial and talent roster that we have going right here, and that's not a good thing at the trade deadline, Sean.
Mike, it's funny. Somebody said, do you dangle Dylan Larkin out there? Well, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Will they? No, they won't. You know it. I know it. They're not going to do that. Although Steve Yzerman, in his tenure as a general manager, has been apt to make that move that makes your eyes pop. I don't think that would be one of the moves, but I think you're thinking along the right lines. You're going to have to give up somebody. You're going to have to give up somebody that you really don't want to give up. Hey, I know everybody and their brother loves to pound on Anthony Mantha. I do. I get that, Mike. Right, and yes, Mike, I'll go to you in a second. I know everybody and their brother, Mike's over there raising his hand. I know everybody and their brother wanted to get rid of Anthony Mantha after the fact, but Mike, there were a lot of people that, what are we giving up Mantha for at this point in time? What are we doing that for? And it was time. It wasn't happening. It was change of scenery, all those things. But a lot of people didn't want to give up on a guy that they thought was going to be a young piece that was going to be part of the Red Wing renaissance. Yes, Michael.
So I also want people to think about, first of all, Mantha's a dog, and he proved that he was a dog.
1,000%.
So again, he was one of those magical talents that Hockey Town kind of imagines. But when we're talking about this, and someone's going to come up and say, "Hey, we're going to trade Dylan Larkin," who arguably right now, Sean, best player on the team. And
yeah,
the guy's having a great year. He's living up to a contract, something we never thought he would do. But you're going to now trade him for somebody, let's say it's Cousins, or let's say whatever. I'm just making this up. But remember, that team's getting rid of that guy for a reason. So do you really want to get rid of a guy that you're going to say is your top scorer, your top guy right now, to get someone else's problem?
right.
Think about it, guys. I don't think that's what you're getting, someone else's Mantha.
Michael said, glad to see the Wings improving. The Blue Jackets are having a good season considering what happened before the season. Great point. And I don't know if enough people, and maybe it's because he's in Columbus, I don't know if enough people are talking about Zach Werenski. Like, seriously, Mike, he's having a monster season right now. 14 goals, 35 assists, 50 points on the blue line. He's literally having a monster season.
And my favorite part of his game is the guy's an absolute warrior. You're going to get him, and you're going to get that effort every night. This is a guy that broke his face in the playoffs and came back and finished that game, Sean, only to be out for the rest of the playoffs because he couldn't play after the surgery. You have to replace his face. I love the guy. I mean, we're getting up there in age now, but that's a guy you want on your team for sure.
Can I tell you who I want on my team?
Who do you want? Do you really, really want?
Lane Hudson.
Oof.
Dude.
You were gushing all weekend about him.
Mike, every gosh damn night. He is. Rookies are weird. Rookie defensemen are weird. Okay. You ask any scout this. This is not Sean Belegian talking. This is not Mike Ivesel talking. Mm-hmm. Everybody develops differently. Defensemen in particular. You can ask every gosh damn scout who's ever scouted. Okay. Defensemen are weird. You might have a guy that can jump straight to the NHL out of the OHL. Like Drew Doughty was a guy, it was like, there's no reason to bring him back. There's no reason for him. It's boring. The guy, like, he's proven he can dominate at this level, et cetera, et cetera. It took Lane Hudson a little while to get going this year. But, Mike, I'm telling you, a night-by-night basis, and last night, you want to talk about a 20-year-old kid that was completely in control, 3 more assists. He's got 9 points in his last 5 games. Mike, every night, he's doing something that just makes you go, I'm serious. He's so fun to watch.
The way he skates makes it impossible to not have fun watching him play. I still find it funny. If you remember, we went to that Montreal-Detroit game, and I snuck out of where we were, and I was literally 2 feet from him. That was his first game, I believe, that he had dressed. Yep. And I took that picture. He's 12. He's 12 years old.
Still looks it.
It is unbelievable. But the talent oozing out of him, I think I heard your Quinn Hughes comparison this weekend.
I have no problem saying that. I'm serious. And Nuge, I am not saying that the Red Wings should go after the Habs. Would be morons if they let go of that kid. Absolute morons, and they're not morons. They've done the slow and steady thing. They've got so much young talent, it's absurd. So by no means am I saying that I'm just pointing out this is a kid that I saw at NTDP that I think we all saw last year on a night-by-night basis for a long time now. And you've been coaching for a while. Defensemen are a different breed. But when it starts to click for a player of that caliber, night in, night out. 3 points here, an eye-popping goal there, an eye-popping rush there. He has been unbelievable. And it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that that's a huge part why the Habs have just been on fire for over a month now. And Mike, it's what's got me excited is who they're beating. Like that's the biggest thing to me. It's like who they're beating. My goodness gracious, it's so much fun.
Well, when we get together, there's always teams we're talking about, and we're going to talk about the Red Wings, obviously. We're going to talk about Montreal, obviously. We're going to talk about Ottawa because we've talked about the changing of the guard coming, and those being 3 of the 4 teams. We're not going to mention Buffalo that are going to be in this changing of the guard. They're within 3 points of each other in the standings, and we talk about Detroit having a little bit of a run until February 1st playing playoff teams. So do the Senators. And Sean, I know you're very aware that so is Montreal. Montreal has the same kind of run of playoff teams coming up. So it's going to be a huge tell. We can sit here before the San Jose game and talk about the Wings are back and they're going to be good. Wait, talk to me February 1st. Montreal's been on quite a tear, Sean. Trust me, people, I get plenty of texts from Mr. Belegian about what a tear Montreal is on. Ottawa was in that playoff spot for a little bit, as was Montreal. But will we have the same story February 1st? That's going to be something to see where these 3 teams that we've been pumping their tires for quite a while.
Well, it's funny, Mike. Part of this run for the Habs is like beating the last 522 Stanley Cup champions too. Like it really is. If you go back, they knocked off the Panthers 4-0. They knocked off the Lightning 5-2. They knocked off the Knights 3-2. They knocked off the Avalanche in the game that you and I were watching. You were so kind holding the phone up for me while I was driving. It's very safe to drive and watch a game at the same time. They knocked off the Capitals. It's been a lot of fun to watch and start to. The most important thing to me, Mike, is when you start to take off. Like when the Wings start to take off. To me, it's who's helping them take off. Is it the veteran that you know isn't going to be here in a year or two? Or is it the young pieces? And when the young pieces are leading the way, that is when you get, all kinds of fired up. No doubt about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just did the game today where I saw the schedule. I wanted to see where these teams would be February 1st. And I just said, so where are we? I mean, I looked at the ages. Obviously, Montreal is by far the younger of the 3 teams. And even Ottawa is much younger than the Detroit roster, which, as you've brought up before, would shock most teams. And you're 100%. When you look at it, this is Montreal's and Ottawa's roster going forward, John.
Yep.
This is not Detroit's roster. And it's a shame. I mean,
it's just being honest, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know how long it's going to be until we see what Detroit's roster is going to be, what the future of it is with all the pieces. As we've said, who's coming out of Grand Rapids and when, and what happens when you go to Grand Rapids? I know there was a comment in the chat about if Yzerman had Hudson, he would have to have 3 or 4. If we had Lane Hudson, he'd be in Grand Rapids and we'd never see him again. He would just do that magical Grand Rapids disappear. And in 3 years, we'll be doing What the Puck. And we'll say, we should be trading. We should be trading Cole Hudson. He's got potential. He's got potential, right? Potential means you haven't done anything yet. That is the definition of Grand Rapids.
Austin, I want to get to a couple of your comments in particular about one player. Sorry, I didn't mean to go down this road, but let's talk about our friends at the Wealth Advantage Group. If you are ready to take charge of your financial future, well, then look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville and owned by those 2 guys right there with over 20 years of industry experience. I have a pretty good nephew playing for Ann Arbor, Gabriel Richard as well. Shout out to Easton. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, or already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 different states. The investment world It is a complex one, but if you're ready to start taking charge of your finances, ready to be more serious about them, it's time to work with the experts. Why don't you reach out to Mike and Jeff and the great people at the Wealth Advantage Group? Give them a call, 248-773-8574, or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. Did you see who Austin? I want to get up to that comment, because you know how it is with cute little prospects and everything. You every time you think a guy's going to pop, it doesn't work, and et cetera, et cetera. But Mike, I'm sure, I don't know if you and I have ever had this conversation, but some of the stuff that is happening with Ivan Demidov and some of the highlight reel things, like go on YouTube, go on Twitter. This kid is an absolute stud. And it's interesting because I know the Habs got killed for not taking Mitchkov in the draft before, and he went to Philly. And they opted to take another, prototypical today NHLer in Reinbacher, and they're taking their sweet time with him, I might add. And part of the reason they did that is because the general manager had a feeling that they might be in a position where they could grab a guy like Demidov. So they got their other young defenseman who they think is going to be a part of what they have. And they went out and got Ivan. And everything that I've heard, and even talking to a couple people, is he's a guy that could be playing in the league right now, but I think he's a guy that's going to be here sooner rather than later. And if you like those highlight reel goals, all the Pavel Datsyuk and Patrick Kane back in the day type of stuff, boy, I'll tell you what, as he said, you watch his highlight reel. My goodness gracious, there have been some pretty big things on that highlight reel.
Yeah, they have been. They're nice to see. And the thing with it, as we go forward, these guys come out and they get to come over and play. Hopefully more of them can do this and get out of the contracts, obviously, that they're in over there. Because it seems like every team's got one, right? Every team's got someone that's overseas playing in Russia, and they can't get over here for whatever reason, or you're going to be waiting. But as you said, the kid in Philadelphia, he came a lot sooner. That's what kept him from going higher than he actually did. They didn't think he was going to get out. So hopefully these guys get back, because all we're seeing when they get on the ice, Sean, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
They're good hockey players.
One of the things that Austin also asked, he said, gun to your head, and this is something we plan to talk about anyway. Gun to your head, who do you think the Cup finalists are? For me, I'm going with what I said in the preseason, Canes and Stars. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think I picked Florida and the Stars. I know it's crazy to say Florida going 3 years in a row, but I took Florida and the Stars. I don't know how good I feel about the Stars right now. I got to be honest with you. I don't know how good I feel about the Stars. Mike, I still feel pretty good about Florida. I worry about the gas tank, because when you play that many games, eventually you're going to hit the wall at some point in time. But who did you say at the beginning of the year? I don't remember, pal.
And you think I'm going to remember? I hired you to remember when I say things. I mean, I know I've got a bunch of futures on teams, but that was just based on what their odds are. Here's the thing, like going through it, the only one that came to my head, I agree, is Florida. The problem with Florida, but we said this last year, Sean, is the way they play that taxes you, and it wears on you. And the runs that they've had in the playoffs, that could make it tough. But they're my only one that, if gun to my head, I'd say Florida. Yep. And you could take the West. You could take the West. I mean, we talked earlier that we were going to say something about Winnipeg, Minnesota. I mean, and the funny thing is the one I wrote it down right here was probably Dallas, maybe. However, I still have, and you know this because we've had these conversations, I've been on an LA Kings run for a while.
You have been.
And I keep looking at them. I don't think they're ready. I don't think they're ready. And like literally, like the West is like, I've got no idea. I literally have no idea. The only name I wrote down in the West was Dallas.
I will always be, Austin, to your point, Mike, a.k.a. Future Bets. Boy, he's got a bunch. Austin, to your point, I will always have a special place in my heart for the Carolina Hurricanes because I obviously did broadcast for them. I don't think the Carolina Hurricanes, yet again, have the goaltending. to get them through yet again. And it's been years saying that, and you can't say enough about the job that Rod Brindamore has done there. And they're a fun team, and they're going to battle, and they're going to give everybody they play a difficult time. But we've said it for years. Like, I don't think they have the answer in net yet again, and I think that'll be their downfall come playoff time.
John, if they grab a goalie somehow, some way at the deadline, I will be the first to jump on that bandwagon. Because I'm right with it. They have all the pieces, starting at the man that runs the bench and Mr. Brindamore, all the way to they just haven't had to go. And here's the thing. It's Frederick Anderson, right? Is the goalie there. I mean, every time the guy gets going, he gets hurt. And where is he right now? He hurt.
Yep. That's it. And honestly, it's, whether they call up Tokarski. Do you remember him?
Yep.
Right? That was the guy after Kreider, that son of a bitch, took out Price's knee. They had to turn to Dustin Tokarski. That's 10 years ago, for goodness sake. Almost 11. I mean, that's a crazy thing. They're down 2-0, but that's kind of been the MO for a long time for the Canes. Is they've always, Kochetkov and Tokarski and Freddie Anderson.
Mrazek.
Right? It just seems like that's always. As Ray said, Tristan is available. Do they take a chance with him? Isn't it the same thing, though? I mean, to me, it's adding another Tokarski. It's adding another Freddie. It's adding, a bunch of pieces that they already have, if that makes sense.
Right. And if there's one name sitting in the back of my head, and it's just that, I love stories. It would be that story. I don't know if the guy would take it, but like a Fleury, a guy that's won cups, been there, done that, what he could bring to that locker room. And could he be that goalie? Could he be that stopper? And I don't know if Minnesota is going to want to let him go, because at some point he's going to have to fill in too. Because they're like they're gonna,
I've said it for 2 months. I like that team. I think they're just cutely flying under the radar. I don't know how big of a run they have, but I like that team. They've been flying under the radar all year.
Steve should go take a look at the backside of that line. That defensive core right there is sick.
Listen, I want to ask you about the Winnipeg Jets when we come back.
Okay.
And I think I think you know the question I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's simple and funny.
Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called our friends at Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? I did. And you know what our friends at Legacy Partner did? Well, because they're one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents, they provided a full-service, one-stop solution for all of our insurance needs, personal, business, large and small. They'll do the same for you. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you, and yes, help save you money at the same time. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. So what are you waiting for? Give Legacy a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today at 586-209-4106. Do me a favor. Heck, do yourself a favor. Call them. Tell them that we sent you. They're going to hook you up, or visit legacypartnersins.com. Okay, so many years ago now. I can't believe it was this long. I think it was 2018. The Hockey News put out an article in 2015 saying your 2018 Stanley Cup champions, the Winnipeg Jets. And Kevin Cheveldayoff did everything right. He took his lumps. He brought up all these young guys, got there. The guy that they thought he was, was going to be the cornerstone of their franchise for many, many years to come in Line A. And they haven't come close, Mike. They have not come close. Let's be honest. So the question that I have to you today, friend, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but can I ask you why anybody would think that this year was going to be different with the Winnipeg Jets?
It's a great question, Sean, because how I said it's kind of easy and it's kind of funny that I started dinking around at lunch at work and trying to figure some stuff out on Winnipeg. And I'm not lying about this, Sean. There was an article that I came across and I was reading it and I'm like, oh wow, okay. And then as I scroll back up to the top, it was 1 year ago today.
Yeah.
And then you go through and you could find another article from January of 2023, from 2022. Right? It's the same thing, Sean. And it's kind of like you say with Buffalo, there's something in the water. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, they lean a lot on Hellebuck. He has some great regular seasons. He's proven that he's a losing goaltender in the playoffs. Then you look at they've got these scorers, but I mean, heck, you watched your Montreal team knock them out of the playoffs. I mean, what do we do? Like, they don't have that construction of that team. And you go, and I found an article about their roster at the beginning of this year. There's only 3 non-Jets that were added to this roster.
Yeah.
So they're going to war with the same thing. And I'm not saying they're not going to do it, Sean. But until you do it, I can't say that you're going to do it. And so when you look at where they're at, Sean, right? So I'm just going to give you a quick one here. Please, hopefully it didn't leave it left. Give me 1 second to pull up.
Okay, while you're doing that, Ray said, did you guys happen to see the list of the most points at age 28? Who's tied with McDavid? How many people would have said that name? I did not. Can you let me know? Now I'm intrigued. I did not see that list. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to hear about that. And Ray, we'll talk about your Leafs in a second, too, I promise.
So Sean, when we talk about anyone, why would anyone think anything different is going to happen? I've got the Oilers sitting at 6-1 odds to win the Stanley Cup. Those are the leaders of the pack, right? The Winnipeg Jets stand well above them in these standings. Where do you put Winnipeg?
Look, if they play a series, I'll take the Oilers all day.
But like in the to win the cup, where would you put them? I mean, the Oilers are number 1. Where do you?
I wouldn't put anything on them myself. It goes back to what you just said. But for the sake of an argument, if the Oilers are, what did you say, 6-1?
Yes.
12-1?
You're close. 14-1. They're the 10th favorite team.
Wow.
Vegas power rankings, they know what they're talking about. I mean, it doesn't mean only the favorites win, but they just sit out there. They're always out there. A team that we are shocked about, and then you also the Caps are ahead of them.
Wow. Oh, look at Ray. Ray said Stevie is tied with McDavid. Top 2 is 2 guys named Gretzky and Mario. Do you know what people forget though, Ray? Steve Yzerman lit it up. I still laugh. 88-89. The good news is Steve Yzerman finished with 155 points. He had a 155-point season. The bad news is he didn't even finish in second. He finished in third, 44 points behind the leading scorer that year. That was the year Mario went off for $1.99. People forget, depending on your age, people forget some of the monster years Stevie put up early in his career. And $1.55 obviously is front and center with that. My goodness gracious. It was insane that year. It really was.
Yeah.
Jets, with the way Hellebuck is playing, remind me of the Luongo Riot era Canucks. That's a pretty good comparison. That was the one run they made, and unfortunately, everything came together, and they probably should have won that Game 7 at home, and they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. And also you have to add into there, the West is tough, like you said, with Edmonton and Colorado's in there. Colorado's is well above them in the odds too. The West is also tough to come out of, and I can't see Winnipeg competing in there.
All right, 2 teams that I want to talk to you about. I cannot believe we've bullshitted for almost 40 minutes. It's almost like we've done this for like our whole lives or anything like that. I want to ask you about 2 teams in the East, the team that's on top and another team Maple Leaf. We have to get into Maple Leaf, but let me tell you about Lindsay Broadwell first. When it comes time to get yourself a new house, whether you're buying or selling or both, you need to contact the right agent. Who do we recommend? That lady right there, Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is probably the biggest investment you will ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business. When it's time to move, our friend Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, even first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Just make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She'll help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Mike, very early in the year, I think even before we started doing these dumb What the Puck shows, you were talking about the Washington Capitals, and it continued. Even when Ovi went out, it continued. There is something going right now. There, make no mistake about that. They're on top of the East for good reason. But the lingering question remains, is this a playoff team? Is this a team that's capable of making that run until June?
It's going to be tough, Sean, because it's being done with smoke and mirrors. If you look at it, if you go up and down that roster. So to me, it screams coaching. And then the big thing, and again, we can replay all of our shows. You know, I'm a big fan of Logan Thompson, the goalie. Is I like him. He doesn't have a lot of playoff experience, but if you'll notice his playoff experience, his numbers don't drop off that much. He's only 2-2, but his save percentage and his goals against are right there. So he's got that experience. But I don't know. I mean, is Dylan Strome gonna? Remember how I was talking to you about MVP, right? He was what, 1,000 to 1 for MVP. Now I'm not going to lie. I've got the Capitals at 40 or 45 to 1 odds to win the cup because I like the way they play. We liked the way they played last year. If you remember that, Sean, we just couldn't figure out how they were doing it, and it's changed. I mean, they didn't add anything. What is Dubois? PLD is that the big guy you? Mangiapane or whatever you say this guy's, but I mean, it's not that much different, but they're playing. It's another year under the system with the coach. They will, I mean, obviously they're going to make the playoffs and they can beat someone in the playoffs in that for sure.
As Tom said, how the heck does that team keep winning? And I've watched them multiple times. I watched the Habs beat them last week. And like Mike, honestly, when I watch it, I'm just like, I don't get it. It just, things are going right for them. Full marks. There's no doubt about that. I just don't think they're a team with staying power. Can I talk to you about Maple Leaf? Mm-hmm. Mitch Marner's having a magnificent season. He is. Okay. I know what happens at him come playoff time. I know all of Maple Leaf Nation wanted to run him out of town. You know who I feel sorry for? I feel sorry for Anthony Stolarz, because this is a young guy. It was finally, I can't say young anymore. It was finally happening for him. He had kind of bounced around, and, you know, he was a second round pick 10, 11 years ago. I don't even remember. Beat us. When I say us, the Whalers in a legendary series in 2013 where Tom Wilson almost single-handedly won that series. But Mike, given the opportunity this year, he was excelling. And then, unfortunately, he had to go under the knife. Let's see what happens. I think the questions remain about Maple Leaf, though. Okay, even with Poppy, coming back. The questions remain. Do they have enough on the back end? And most importantly, do they have that goaltender that can win? Forget about winning series, win games come playoff time.
We're going to have to see if Stolarz comes back and what he looks like when he comes back. Because if you remember, I asked you like the first couple weeks, have they found their goaltender? And I think they did. Then Matthews goes down. And then I was just looking online, and Tavares went down in practice, whether it was today or yesterday, and it didn't look good, but he did get up. But Sean, I mean, Maple Leaf, Winnipeg, Maple Leaf, Winnipeg, they look good. They get to playoff, they disappear. it's kind of the same thing. And I've had some pretty hefty futures tickets on Toronto. Like this team, you look at this team, how's this team not winning?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be very interested. Get Stolarz back. All right. Let's see him get healthy. How does Berube have these guys playing in the playoffs? It's going to be very interesting because that's where it falls apart.
So here's an interesting one. Ray said, will the Ovi run at Gretzky record help or hurt them come playoff time? That's a great question, Ray. And he said, the Rangers, have to wake up. I disagree with that. There's a problem. I think to me, there's no coincidence that the word problem and Panarin both start with P. I think there's a problem with that team. I think they're Charmony soft. I'm sorry. I know I said it last year. It was I was talking to Aaron Ward about it. Sorry to name drop, and he was adamant, Mike. If you remember, the Rangers were going to win the East, and I was like, the Rangers and the Panthers in a series. Are like seriously? If those two meet in a series, are you kidding me? Kachuk's going to be grinning ear to ear. Okay, I mean they're going to have their way with them, and to the surprise of nobody, I do not think that the Rangers wake up. I just don't. I don't think that the Rangers wake up.
I mean, you look at when Drury took over on that team, we're going to get tough. We got to get tough. We got beat up. We're going to get tough. And then how did you just describe them? Charmony soft. They're dogs. They're absolute dogs. That's going to take an overhaul of that roster, and they're not coming back. That ship has sailed. When they come back, that'll be a new roster.
I think so. It's got to be right. I think there are too many guys in that team. And I know some people that cover the team have made that suggestion that there are a few guys that have quit on that team. I told you my thoughts on Panarin. All I had to do was see him in person. You don't hide that stuff. I'm sorry. You don't hide that stuff. I mean, I think I'm going to sound like such a smug bastard, but I'm going to say it anyway. Mike, you know as well as I do, the average fan is going to look at his stat line and go, ooh, look at he put up 110 points. But you go to a game and you watch a guy like that. And I told you immediately when I went to that game last year, I wouldn't want any part of him. I wouldn't want any part of them. And then I made a point to watch a lot during the playoff last year. And that's not a guy that you win with. I'm sorry. It's not a guy that you win with. I think he's a dog. I think he's a guy that, and if you're watching Panarin, prove me wrong. Like, seriously, if this gets back to you, hey, bud, do you know there's a whole nother 70 feet of ice the other way? You should check it out sometime.
There's two problems with the whole thing. For one, you can't have guys like this, and I've mentioned this about wings. Like when the wings that was going tough, Raymond, Lucas, these guys can't be minus hockey players. Panarin's a minus hockey player, and the problem that I have with it is, according to their GM, he's the only frickin' untouchable. So that tells you a lot of where the direction of that team's going to go, even when they change it.
Charmony soft. Yeah, as Tom said, Stolarz played junior here. Remember him with the Knights. He beat the Whalers in 2013. And that was when I knew if there were any lingering questions about Tom Wilson, you need to shove them someplace where the sun doesn't shine. That was a guy that stepped up his game, was phenomenal in that series. Absolutely phenomenal. Ray said, how would the playoffs look if Detroit can jump over Tampa and we get a Toronto-Detroit playoff series? Can you imagine another Montreal-Toronto series?
Let's just cut right to the chase.
How about that? Are you kidding me? How about that?
The league is better when Chicago, Toronto, Detroit, when the original six teams are in the playoffs and playing each other, the league's better. It's better 100%.
It's crazy, Mike. I know I told you this. I had this conversation with Chris Osgood a couple years ago, and the Habs and Wings haven't seen each other in the playoffs since '78. Like, think about that.
God, how great would that be, Sean?
Our parents and grandparents grew up with that. That was, if you were a hockey fan in the 50s and even into the 60s, man, you saw that incessantly. Kovalchuk was another cherry picking bastard. Oh, was he ever? Oh my gosh.
Best contract ever.
Greatest contract ever. Rangers are looking to add JT Miller for Lafreniere. I think, one man's opinion, I think Vancouver would be nuts to make that deal. Rangers probably should have never let JT go anyway. Like, seriously,
Right.
they probably should have never let him go.
The
anyway.
Rangers made a bad decision. What?
Yeah. Imagine that. Okay, Mike, one more read, and then if there are any thoughts before we get out of here, you throw. I cannot believe we did 50 minutes. And I know you got to go to bed soon.
Well, I've got to wait up. I'm watching Sebi play right now.
Right now?
I'm going to say the check he just threw cost me $350.
Austin, you remember back in the day, I used to rant on Kovalchuk. Oh, just rant on him. What it rough. I used to bark. Hey, All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for, from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. So don't sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com today. Their menus and all their 5-star reviews, or give them a call, 586-731-1398 to get your event started. They are going to take care of you. I wanted to get to Tim's comment because there is some validity to that. John over in Windsor watching. Many on this side of the river are holding their breath. It never ends. The drama with Toronto. Tim said, aren't the Capitals the Vikings or the Bills of the NHL? Other than the one magical run, that's been the Capitals' MO. Mike, when we were kids, how many great Brian Murray teams there were that just flamed out of the playoffs, where you're like, there is no way this team is going to fail this year. Look at that. They got Rod Langway and Scott Stevens on their blue line. And somehow, someway, how the hell did they lose that series? That's kind of been their MO for a long, long time. Ray said, can Augustine continue his World Junior success and help MSU to the national title? I am 1,000% biased. But, Mike, I think you know what my answer is. Yes. Nightingale has done a fantastic job building that roster. They are not cute any longer. They have depth. You watch guys step up every 2 ways, and I think they've been through the grind now. I think last year, the newness of it, and you know, a lot of people kind of dismissed Michigan, which was stupid because Coach Naranjo has a ton of talent to deal with, and they punched the ticket and beat Michigan State. Michigan State didn't forget that. My jaw would drop if they didn't get back to the Frozen Four, honestly.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I can't wait to get back out there for hopefully the Big Ten championship game like I was there last year. What an atmosphere they have out there in East Lansing right now.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, I'm good. What's that?
Go Muskies. Can I throw Go Muskies in there?
We can say Go Muskies. And if anybody out there has a couple extra sticks that we could send to Sebi out in Lindsay, it would be greatly appreciated because he's got one sawed in half floating in the middle of the ice here. It's awesome.
You better watch off the board tomorrow. Mike's going to be making some big wagers to pay for some hockey sticks, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna be double down on a couple of first touchdown bets so I can afford a stick. I'm going to see him Saturday. I'm gonna have to bring him another stick for the love of God.
Good. Safe travels, my friend. Todd, thank you. Make sure you check out Blake and Mike tomorrow. What time are you guys going tomorrow?
Thursday, 7:00. They're gonna keep me up late.
Okay. God bless you. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you.
What the Puck with Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Always Pushing Forward by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.